Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
That enough yes for you?
So, let's see. We just got back from seeing It Follows.
It Follows, yes.
Which was actually a really good little movie, definitely like in the same relative vein as the Babadook, as in being a very contained story about
a monster that serves as a metaphor for a life experience.
Yeah.
In this case, the Babadook was all about grief. This movie's all about sexual anxiety and all the stuff that goes into that, including, just the general anxiety when you're young about having sex, like STDs, like it might follow you, like your reputation might follow you if you have too much sex, or hence It Follows.
Yeah.
Or even the dealing with the results of a sexual assault. The stuff that will follow you your whole life with that, internally and externally. But all represented by this fucking creepy ass monster that will take the form of anyone you know and people you don't know and just follow you to the ends of the earth and then fuck you to death. Sorry, spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. That's the movie. A lot of people said that this had a John Carpenter style score.
It's a retro score. It's a synth score, but John Carpenter's not the right way to put it. It didn't remind me of any particular John Carpenter score, but it did remind me of like 80s and 70s, like John Carpenter-esque, but not quite John Carpenter synth scores. Like Extro had a good score that kind of reminded me of this score.
Extro, some of the early Cronenberg films.
Oh yeah. This entire movie reminded me a whole lot of Shivers, and if you haven't seen Shivers, that's a good one. That's a great one.
Yeah, that's another sexual metaphor as monster.
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah. You like it, a commenter? Oh man, this is a really creepy movie. I saw a lot of reviews beforehand, which kind of made this out to be the most terrifying thing they'd seen in forever, and I don't think it's terrifying. I think if you have sexual anxiety, this is probably the scariest thing you've ever seen. But as someone who is relatively comfortable with my own sexuality and having sex, this movie was just creepy. Just effectively creepy. Like, that is a sign of a good movie, that even though, like, the thing that it is preying upon, the phobia that it's preying upon, even though I don't have it, its technique alone got me. There's a lot of, like, awesome wide-angle shots of just people sitting there talking, and you're constantly looking in the background, because at any moment, this thing might just appear and just start stumbling along, and sometimes it might not even be the monster. It might just be a random hobo or a person, but you don't know. And they effectively create a great tension with that. Like, I guess we should talk about what happens in this movie first.
Yeah, the movie pretty much starts, it's a young girl and her friends in the middle of Detroit. Mm-hmm. It's set in modern day, but as you notice, they don't act like kids in the modern day. They act like kids from like the late 70s and early 80s.
Like you don't really see them like hanging out and like playing video games or anything like that. You like see them like on their porch, just like playing card games and drinking. The kind of stuff that you would expect in like an 80s or 70s movie. Also, all the cars in this movie are all really retro cars. So like the time period,
Ford station.
Yeah. Some of the costumes are a little less period specific. They feel a little bit more 90s. But someone's obviously got a cell phone, like this clamshell cell phone. I don't mean that in the sense that it looks like one of those clamshell VHS tapes. I mean, it's actually a clamshell.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that.
I haven't either. For all I know, it was something they invented for the movie, but maybe it's a product. Maybe it was obvious product placement for someone's clamshell cell phone Nook thingy. I apologize in advance. We are both coming off of various colds. So.
Yeah, so we sound might sound a little tired and fucked up because we kind of
are. So don't let that fool you. We really like this movie.
Yeah. The yeah. Another thing that might happen is I just got a new cat. And so you might hear him in the background meowing because he's getting used to
I'm allergic, so if I start losing my voice, blame Count Catula out over there.
Yeah. Gomez, bastard. But yeah, the movie is really, really good. It's got a lot of. It's a very slow-paced film.
Yes.
Very methodical. Very, very creepy that way.
Well, it's the kind of it's like a 70s horror film. It builds and builds and builds into like a bigger climax, but it's not too big.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't go really big. They don't have the budget for that, and I don't think going bigger with this would have necessarily like benefited it. Like the smallness is kind of what makes it work so well. Like
well, it would lose its personal touch. If it became like a big, overblown, gigantic production.
Exactly.
And because it is about such a personal topic as your sexual experience.
No, absolutely. Plus, any big scare it could have done wouldn't be nearly as effective as just a shot of two kids walking down the street and there's someone in the background and you don't know whether it is monster or whether it is friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, they do that a lot because the only thing which signifies, there are two things which actually signify the monster. One is that it is obviously very single-minded. Once you are its target, it keeps coming for you.
And here's how you become the target. If you have sex with someone who is one of its targets, it passes on to you. It's like an STD, except it's like a cursed STD. If you have sex with someone who is cursed by it, they don't have the curse anymore. They can see the monster, but it's not pursuing them.
Okay, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take over for a minute. So they can still see the monster, but it's now pursuing you. And if it kills you, then it starts working its way back down the line.
Yeah. So the person that infected you becomes his new person that it follows. And so basically our main character in this story, who's same girl from The Guest, by the way, she has sex with her new boyfriend, and the new boyfriend drugs her, and then she wakes up and he informs her of everything that's going on and shows her of the monster and whatever, and it's basically just like, I don't want you to die, so you have to pass this on. Yeah. You have to do this. Like, I had no choice. There's nothing else I could do. I had to pass this on to somebody, and I just chose you because you were the person who would sleep with me.
Yeah. Important detail, though, when he says he drugs her, he doesn't rape her.
Yeah. The sex is consensual.
The sex is consensual, but afterwards he drugs her.
Yeah.
So that he can prove to her that this thing is real.
Yeah, absolutely. But even so, like, she still feels really violated afterwards for real obvious reasons. And so he shows her the monster. The monster chases her down. He gets her away and then dumps her at home. And it's basically just like, you got to pass it on, and then takes off. And then of course the next few like 10 or 15 minutes of the movie is her basically figuring out what he meant by all that as the creature starts showing up in places and chasing her down, and no one else can see it, and she starts freaking out, and all her friends think she's crazy, but she eventually convinces them all to track him down.
One of the things I really liked about this movie is it would have been like The Babadook. It does something that you don't normally do in these movies. And in this type of movie, because it's preying on is it a delusion or is this person actually cursed?
Mm-hmm.
You expect them to never establish this. They establish the reality of this monster.
There's eventually a scene where her friends take her out to this cabin just to get her away from everything. They don't quite believe everything that's going on, but they feel like some fresh air and just getting away from civilization for a little while will, like, help her. And while they're there, they end up sitting on this beach and just relaxing. And there's this really like subtly intense scene as they're all sitting there having fun or whatever. But then blurred in the background is just someone approaching. But you can tell, like, it's probably her friend with glasses. But then in a separate shot, you see come into frame the girl with glasses is sitting on a an
inner tube
in the water, and it's just like, hey guys, you should all come in or whatever. And that's the moment where you're like, oh shit, that's not the girl with glasses behind her.
Yeah, and everyone that's facing that way cannot see the monster, and the target is facing away from it.
Yeah.
But you, the audience, it's dynamite at the foot of the bed.
And then it turns around and you can't see anything anymore, and and then all of a sudden, like, her hair lifts up, and the monster starts grabbing her or whatever, and her friends are like, what the fuck is going on? She's trying to get away, and like the one boy, her friend, who's kind of stuck in the friend zone, essentially, the guy who likes her, but she just likes him as a friend, he grabs a chair and slams it over the invisible space of whatever's grabbing her, and it breaks over something. Like, there's an invisible space there, but the chair breaks, and then all of a sudden, he just goes flying like something smacked him across the sand.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, like, they can't see this thing, but this thing can do damage to them. Like,
yeah. And he, like, lifts up his shirt to inspect, see if he's wounded. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's
fucking
gashed.
wounded.
Yeah, he's fucking gashed. Like, this thing doesn't fuck around. You know, it's like the fucking Terminator. It will not stop. Like, that's the second.
It's very slow, but
Yeah.
it won't stop.
Yeah, well, it's like Jason in that way. It never runs. It just kind of stumbles in this slow little walking pace, and it will follow you to the ends of the earth that way. So if you drive across country and you leave it at your school, it will walk all the way from the school and find you eventually.
Because it always knows where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And over the course of the story, like, one of her friends who doesn't quite believe what's going on, she decides to have sex with him just to see if it will pass on or whatever, and it passes on to him. And at first, it doesn't seem like it passed on. Everything seems okay. Like, I think a week or so goes by and nothing happens, and then next thing you know, one night, she sees something storming into that guy's house, and she runs in just in time to watch as the thing takes the form of his mom and then fucks him to death.
Yeah.
That was fucking fucked up.
Yeah, death by Oedipus.
Yes. And that's the moment where they establish how he kills them. He fucks them to death. Like, that's... Oh my god.
Yeah, it was nasty.
Fucking disgusting. And they don't show very much. Like it's all suggested. It's
Not a gory movie.
Yeah, this is a movie that's more about the anticipation than the actual penetration, so to speak, which is funny about a movie about sex.
Yeah, kind of brilliant that way.
Yeah. Yeah. At one point, after her friend dies, she gives up all hope and decides that I got to do something about this. So it's implied that she hooks up with 3 guys and has some sort of like foursome with them and passes it on to either one or all of them. I don't know how that works. They don't go into that. And then life goes on normally for a while until one day she sees this naked thing on top of her roof as she's driving away from her house one day and realizes, oh god, the implication there is awful because she realizes she just killed someone. Because the only reason why the thing would be back is if someone had died.
Yeah, it's been killed all 3 of those dudes.
Yeah. Sorry, my apologies. God, this is a really creepy movie. What else? What happens after that, or immediately after that? The thing.
Well, then they have the big scene where they try to confront the monster.
That's right. The kind of the friend zone boy has this idea. It's like, do you trust me? And she's like, well, of course I trust you. Like I have no one else to turn to or whatever. And so he concocts this idea of them going to this abandoned like YMCA building with this big old pool that's still there. One thing I will say about that pool is I'm not sure it would be that crystal clear if it was just abandoned.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even think there probably shouldn't even be water in it.
Yeah. But whatever, for the sake of the movie. And so they bring all these just shitloads of household appliances and they put it all around the pool. And they put her in the center of the pool. And the idea is we're going to lure the monster into the pool and then dump everything in and electrify it. But what they don't realize is that this monster, it might be single-minded, but it's not dumb. It immediately walks in and just starts throwing the shit into the water while she's in it.
Trying to electrocute
her or hit her with it.
Yeah.
And so you have this intense scene where like the friend zone kid like pulls out one of their other friends' gun who they got at the cabin and tries to shoot the thing, but he can't see it. He hasn't had it passed on to him yet, so he can't see it, and he ends up like shooting one of their friends in the process.
Yeah.
You know, And while this is all happening, it's like, oh, well, I just shot my friend. I gotta go help my friend. But the monster's still going after my other friend. What am I gonna do, or whatever?
Yeah, the thing that's really cool about this monster is that they thoroughly establish its invisibility.
Yeah.
It is not incorporeal, it is invisible.
Mm-hmm.
It is very physical.
Very much so.
Yeah, it can pick up things and throw them. It can punch people. Like I thought,
And it's strong.
Yeah, it's really strong.
Like that kid who was thrown across the sand, and the first girl who died, like the first opening kill, and
that's
her
the most gory kill in the movie.
Yeah, and her leg was
Yeah, you don't even watch it happen, but she's like, they pretzel her.
Yeah, like, you know how your leg goes back like this? Well, imagine it went forward like that, like just
yeah,
you know,
bent in.
and you're just like, and you just see the aftermath of this, so you have no idea what it did to her. But then later, when you find out that it fucks them to death, you're like, what the fuck kind of sex did that happen? Like, that's
really rough,
nasty.
Now I know it sounds like we're really spoiling the movie for you here, but the thing you kind of got to understand about this movie is that it is a long, slow burn creeper.
This is all about the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's all about the atmosphere. What the actual plot points, the things that happen, only exist to tell the story of the sensation of living with some sort of anxiety over sex.
Yeah.
And it's really, 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 really good that way.
This is a great movie for the post, the post abstinence only age, where kids are growing up with just an intense fear of any sexual activity whatsoever. You're gonna get pregnant, you're gonna get an STD and die, your reputation's gonna be ruined. You gotta wait till marriage, and even after marriage, some things are not okay. Like all these things are hammered into our heads like day in and day out, and this is kind of like the horror movie that's about that anxiety that comes out of that.
You would think, the thing I think is very funny about that is you would think that the people are coming into sexual maturity under the AIDS crisis, which is about when I grew up.
Yeah.
You would think that would be way more prevalent then.
But what you guys had the benefit of is that you had your generation, and the generation right before you, and the one right before that, which meant in between there you had hippies and free love.
True, yeah.
So you had a little bit of sex positivity in there, whereas kids growing up now have the AIDS stuff and beyond. Like,
yeah. Yeah, now it's coupled with misinformation, so nobody knows.
And the worst part is that, like, there's never been a time where we've been able to handle most STDs, even AIDS at this point. It's not a complete death sentence now, but we hammer people more now than we did, like, 10 years ago with it. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, it's like we don't even want to acknowledge that we have essentially conquered one of the biggest life-changing events of sex, which is pregnancy.
Yeah.
It's like we have
abstinence only, no condoms, no whatever, don't be safe, blah, 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 blah. So many problems would be solved that way, but no.
Yeah, but no, can't educate people that way. That might encourage them to do it, but of course the big fuck you is that they're doing it already.
Yeah.
It's just now they're fucking like anxious and tormented and upset about it, which sometimes I feel is what people want.
Yeah.
Which is what makes me angry.
Yep.
It's like, well, they should feel bad. No, they shouldn't.
Well, they essentially want the equivalent of the Catholic guilt,
Yeah.
Live your life. You are a sinner. You gotta feel bad about living,
Yeah.
And it's just, I say fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that.
I say fuck that.
Right.
There are ways we
in
can
ass.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't.
Another reason that this movie is worth watching, beyond just it being a really good creepy movie and a nice slow burn, is that this is done. When we talked about The Guest, that was done in a very 80s, early 90s style, like mixing up things like First Blood, Terminator, and a little bit of the 70s with stuff like Halloween. But this movie is almost all 70s. This movie is shot with like the kind of still zoom-ins that you would see in the 70s. It really loves the 360 pans. It doesn't go overboard with like the Steadicam like we do today, where we often like have these elaborate Steadicam shots. This is a little more reserved. It's a little more like a 70s film in that way. Even the synth score in this feels more 70s than 80s.
Also, a lot of long dolly shots.
Yeah, a lot of long dolly
nice,
shots.
nice and slow.
And also, this also has a little bit of the tinge of the Halloween in that, like, the way this film shoots suburbia and is very much in the same vein as the first Halloween movie. Not necessarily the other ones, but the first one.
Where the suburb is kind of empty and a little foreboding in and of itself, like a forest of houses.
Like, anytime she looked out her window and there was something just standing there or whatever, it was very Michael Myers. Very Michael Myers. God, I wish I wasn't so sick so I could gush more about the movie, but I'm drawing out a loss of what to say now.
Yeah, me too. What else? Let's talk a little bit about some of the other movies that we watched.
Mm-hmm.
Watched Cheap Thrills.